Well, hey there, it's Mark Pomeroy from Elevate Church, welcoming you all to this week's Elevate Church online experience. Great to have you here, especially those of you joining us for the very first time. Hey, before we move on, if you haven't yet subscribed, if you're on YouTube, subscribe to this channel. Make sure you click the notification bell. That makes sure you get pinged, just to let you know, because we're here every single week, that we're back, that we've got something fresh, something filled with hope, and we don't want you to miss out on that. Now, we worship together every week, even though we're all virtually connected, and we're very blessed to have worship partners from all around the world who are allowing us to use their brilliant music. Today's one of my favorites, and they're kind of not the new kids on the block, but they're certainly emerging and growing in influence, and that's really because what they're doing is brilliant. They're called SEU Worship, and they're going to lead us in a couple of songs today. The words are going to be on the screen. I encourage you to join in wherever you are.
Search me and know me and prove what you find. The future made, oh, I'll leave it behind me. Lord, if it's you, then it's perfect in timing. I wanna have slow feet, slow plans, steadfast and patience. Rid me of my quickness, I'll be soon to listen. It seems as though the slower I go, the faster I arrive. I love how we're talking, just quietly walking. The truest of friendship. The more that I know you, oh, the more I wanna have. I wanna have slow feet, slow plans, steadfast and patience. Rid me of my quickness, I'll be soon to listen. Slow feet, slow plans, steadfast and patience. Rid me of my quickness, I'll be soon to listen. It seems as though the slower I go, the faster I arrive. We're arriving in your presence. We're not hurried, we're not in a hurry. We're not in a hurry. be soon to listen. Slow feet, slow plans, steadfast in patience. Rid us of our quickness, we'll be soon to listen. And it seems as though the slower I go, the faster I arrive.
One, two, three, four.
Who thought I'd find you at the lowest place? Who knew you'd feel me in the crowd? Who knew you'd make good of my mistakes? You're nothing like I thought you were. You're better. What a guy, what a guy. Oh, what a guy, what a guy. Oh, what a God, what a guy. We worship you. What a God, what a guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought you'd show for perfection. What kind of God looks for the lost? They say it's over for a sinner, but you say, no it's not, no it's not. You said, no it's not, no it's not. What a God, what a God, yeah. What a God, what a God. Stand on you. What a God, what a God. What a God, what a God.
I'll stand in awe of you, Lord, and sing to God. If the highest place I reached is at your feet, then I've done it all. If the best thing that I've seen is your glory, then I've seen it all. Your love has changed my life, forever satisfied. God, you are my everything. If the highest place I reached is at your feet, then I've done it all. If the best thing that I've seen is your glory, then I've seen it all. Your love has changed my life, forever satisfied. God, you are my a God. It's who you've been to me. What a God, what a God. What a God, what a God.
Well, hey there, Elevate friends and family. Great to have you with us today for the second week of our brand new series called Fresh Start. And this is a series that we're teaching on God's principles for financial management. And here's what I want to say to you right off the bat. No matter where you are on your journey of financial management, and particularly if you feel like you're behind in your journey with God, it's never too late to make a fresh start. Now, we teach a series on biblical principles of financial management every single year. And look, I'm aware some churches don't touch the subject because, they want to come across as offending people. I'm also aware that some churches do teach some things around finances that are kind of manipulative and quite dangerous, and we're not going there. The reasons we do teach a series on biblical principles of financial management every year, well, first of all, God has a lot to say about the topic. So if he's got a lot to say about the topic, we have a responsibility to teach about what God has to say. Second reason is, look, we all manage finances. I mean, some people manage more than others, but every single one of us has income coming into our world. God entrusts us with some income, and we all have that in common. And then the reality of a lot of studies point to the fact that money and it really is, and managing finances is one of the top causes of stress and anxiety and relational tension, marital tension, generational destruction, and even just people feeling like guilt and shame, or even just a lack of clarity. What should I be doing? How should I honor God in my financial management? And look, we kind of also ask what should be a bit of a no-brainer question, and that is, if churches aren't teaching God's principles of financial management, then even Jesus followers run the risk of walking around uninformed. And by being uninformed about what God has to say about the subject, we kind of run the risk of just doing what everyone else does, and therefore getting the results that everyone else gets, which means we're going to miss out on experiencing God's better when it comes to financial management. So we've put out a vision, like a 2025 vision. I know it's May, but again, it's never too late. What if, as we teach this series, and as you lean into this series, and as you learn things in this series, and as you apply what you learn, what if 2025 could be the year where you look back in a few years' time and point to 2025 as being the year that you started to stress less, experience more peace, more purpose, more freedom. You started fighting with your spouse less. You started to create some margin in your financial world, which allowed you to be more purposeful and more generous in your financial management. Now, it's not enough to just kind of learn and not do. Hope is not a strategy. You do need a plan, like learn the principles and learn some of the steps that will take you to a better place with financial management. So there's a resource. We put it up last week. I'm going to recommend it again. We'll probably recommend it each week of this series. It's a book called The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Now, Dave Ramsey is a bit of our go-to guy. He's a kind of a guru in this space, and he's a Christian. And one of his kind of mission impetus is to help Jesus followers, and not just Jesus followers, but help Jesus followers, Christians, and churches actually be willing and able to be more generous and purposeful with their finances. So this book, if you get it from Amazon, it's going to cost you $30, but I want to point to you, don't think of it as a cost, think of it as an investment. And he's going to cover up a lot of stuff, some of which I'm going to touch on today, but I'd suggest you get the book to really take a much deeper dive. Now, a couple of years ago, there was a study conducted in the US of everyday millionaires. And it was the largest ever study of everyday millionaires. They studied over 10,000 of the people that fell into this category of everyday millionaires. And they found a few things that, well, I'm going to tell you what some of them are. They might come across as surprising, but I also hope they come across as encouraging. One of the things they found was that 93% of these everyday millionaires did not inherit a large sum of money. In other words, they reached millionaire status within one generation. Second thing is the top 5 occupations may come as a bit of a surprise, but again, hopefully as a bit of an encouragement. Here's the top 5 occupations of, and in this order, of everyday millionaires. Number 1, engineers. So, there you go. Number 2, accountants. Number 3, teachers. Number 4, management, and not necessarily like CEO level management, typically low to mid-level management. In fact, 90% of the people that qualified in this study as everyday millionaires were in this low to middle management, those that were, in the management field, and then lawyers. So, there's a few professions in there that didn't show up, that we might have assumed would show up. Many of them took as much as 20 years to reach this everyday millionaire status, but, they really kind of proved that a consistent commitment and execution of spending less than you earn ultimately will get you to have margin, which takes you to a better place. Solomon, one of the wisest people that ever lived, he had a lot of very wise principles that he wrote down called Proverbs around this subject of financial management. Here's one of them. Solomon wrote, "Wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears, but wealth from hard work grows over time." Remember, I just said that many of these everyday millionaires, it took them 20 years to get there, but they got there. And look, the same study discovered a couple of other things as well. Number 1, that these people typically didn't wear expensive designer clothes, nor did they drive expensive vehicles. Most of them drove pretty standard cars. My dad used to say, buy the cheapest car that your ego can afford. And actually, by not wearing designer clothes and not driving a flashy car, by today's cultural standards, we might say they didn't look like millionaires. I'll leave you to think about that for a second. Now, last week we put up this graph. This graph has 3 lines on it. The middle line is just someone who's experiencing income increase year on year. Might be just because the CPI increased, might be they get a little pay bump each year, maybe a job change, maybe a promotion, whatever. So let's just say, okay, great, this person's income is going up year on year. And what this graph then points out that there's 3 outcomes that you can achieve, or 3 groups, let's call them groups. There's actually a middle group, and I'm going to start with that one. So this is the person that spends everything they earn. So there's only one line there. The income line and the expense line is the same. And what this does is this keeps you in the category of broke. Earn $1 million, spend $1 million. Guess what? You're still broke. Solomon again talks to this, says the wise man saves for the future, but the foolish man or the foolish person spends whatever they get. Now, I appreciate that we're living in many parts of the world, including here in Australia, in a cost of living crunch. In fact, it's one of the reasons we're teaching this series right here, right now, because it's super, super, super relevant to a lot of people. And there's a group of people who are my absolute heroes. And those are the people who have shaved every single aspect of their financial expenditure to the absolute bare bones, and yet are still feeling the impact of the cost of living that's come on them. You're my heroes. And some of what we talk about today, to move from the broke category, where you're just kind of living paycheck to paycheck, $1 in equals $1 out, the idea of moving beyond that, like tomorrow, may seem a little far-fetched, but I want to encourage you, don't dismiss it. Make it an aspirational goal. That hey, listen, right now we're fighting the good fight. We're not being wasteful. We're being as frugal and resourceful as we know how to be. And by the way, I trust that God will continue to supply all your needs. I absolutely believe that. And this time can be a faith-building season in your life. But don't dismiss or let go that you can move beyond this category of broke into the better one of margin, which I'm going to land on shortly. Then there's a second group, and this is the group that spend more than they earn, 110%, 120%, which is easier today than it ever has been. Credit cards, personal loans, and then one of the newer players, buy now, pay later, which is kind of marketed as having no downside, but you probably want to read up about that. There's downside. And the problem with spending more than you earn, well, is like, just to call it what it is, you're actually spending tomorrow's money today, and not just spending tomorrow's money, you're actually spending somebody else's money. And then you've got to pay them back. Then you're playing catch up. Then you're starting your work week earning for them, not for you. And here, Solomon, he has something to say about this as well. And I'm going to read it two ways, starting with the PG, and then I'm going to move to the R. Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is servant to the lender. Well, in another translation, Solomon's quoted as saying the rich rule over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender. Now, I'm talking about consumer debt here. I'm not talking about your home loan. I'm talking about borrowing money, personal loan, credit cards, buy now, pay later, to buy things today with money you haven't earned yet. And our culture's normalized it, like everybody's doing it. They say, well, you know, my parents, when I was growing up, told me, hey, listen, just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean you should. In fact, they said it this way, if everyone else is jumping off a cliff, does that mean you should jump off a cliff? That's a good question. Now, if you are in debt, I want to point you to Dave Ramsey's website. I mean, again, I encourage you to buy the book, but you're thinking, well, $30, I'm trying to pay off the loans or the credit cards. Fine. Go to his website. It's on the screen now, ramseysolutions.com. Look under the free resources, and you're going to find his 7 baby steps. Baby step number 2 is pay off debt. And he's actually got a plan or a process that he calls the debt snowball. Now, you can read up on it. It's very simple. It's, well, simple to understand at least. And then you got to put it into practice. Very simply, he talks about the idea of listing your debts from the lowest amount owing down to the highest amount owing. Pay the minimum payments on the amounts except for the lowest amount, and pay extra on the lowest amount owing. Get that to 0, and then roll the money you've been paying onto that onto the next one, and then onto the next one until they're all paid off. It's all on the website if that sounds a little bit confusing for you. We've been recommending Dave Ramsey's Debt Snowball for over a decade, and I could line people up here at Elevate who have taken his advice, put that plan into motion, and now are literally living debt free. So there you go. Get into that one. Absolutely. And then there's this third group, and this is the aspirational goal group. This is the best group to be in. I would say to you, this is the group that God wants us to actually land in or move to. And this is the group with margin. This is the group of people who have cultivated over time, probably, to a place where they are spending less than they earn. And these people, by spending less than they earn, well, first of all, they stress less. Secondly, they have more purpose because they can give more. And then they've got more freedom because if they want to save a bit extra for retirement, if they want to be more generous over here, they can because they're not feeling like they're underwater all the time. So again, that goal and that to be in that group could be, for many of you, I understand this, an aspirational goal. But make it an aspirational goal. Make it a faith goal. Say, God, I want to get to that place. And then start where you're at today. Start where you're at today, reducing expenses so you're not spending everything you earn. Today, start the debt snowball if you're currently have debt, personal loans, credit card, buy now, pay later. Tackle them using the debt snowball and then just see. And it might take months. It might even take a few years, depending on your situation. But look, it's worth it. And as I said, right at the top, this group of everyday millionaires, some of them took 20 years to reach millionaire status. I hope it won't take you 20 years to get into the margin group. I pray it doesn't. But look, today, start today. And let 2025 be the year where God did something remarkable in your financial world because you learned and you put a plan together and then you executed that plan consistently for days, for weeks, every paycheck, for months, until you arrived at that place of margin where you start to experience more peace, more purpose, and more freedom. Now, just a little thing at the end. I want to encourage you, get your camera, phone, scan this QR code. It's going to take you to the Bible app. You need to have the Bible app installed. And it's going to take you to a section of the Bible app called My Church, which will allow you to set Elevate Church as your church. And one of the benefits of doing that is that every single week we post up or publish a featured Bible reading plan around the topic that we've been teaching on. So literally right now, as I'm recording this, there's a plan based on last week's teaching about how we can experience less anxiety around money. It's just called Anxious with Money. You might be able to sneak in and get that because next week we're going to publish a new Bible reading plan on today's topic that we've been teaching on. But you can then take a deeper dive and get even more perspective and clarity around God and His instruction and principles when it comes to financial management. I read those plans every week for my own benefit. Also helps me get better prepared and better perspective to be able to teach and do what I do leading Elevate Church. So that's a free resource. Jump on that. And next week, I'm going to teach about savings. Now, again, you might be like, savings? If you're spending 120%, if you're buried in debt, sure, savings is not a next step. You know, Dave Ramsey in his 7 baby steps doesn't put savings like high on the list, apart from emergency fund, which is step 1. You'll see that for yourself. But again, it could be an aspirational goal. So join us, invite someone. If you're married, make sure your spouse is here so you can be learning this stuff together and committing to this journey together. So I look forward to seeing you back here next week. So we are smack bang in the middle of our annual teaching series on financial management. And yes, we are going to cover the topic of giving, which one of the reasons, and when I teach that, I'm probably going to talk about 3 reasons that my wife and I give. Because, we're smoking what we're selling. We give just like we encourage everyone else to give as well. And one of the reasons is it demonstrates a faith in God, that He's our provider. I taught about that last week at the beginning of this series, that God will supply all of our needs. And so as I give to Him and as we give to Him, we trust that He's going to take care of us. And so that's just one of the reasons. There's more than that, and I'll teach on them in a couple of weeks. But I encourage you to kind of maybe take that step as well, if you haven't yet, or if you have, stay in there. Stay in the game of giving consistently, generously. To give to Elevate, which allows us to reach people just like you, build people just like you. Go to our website, the link's on the screen, click on the Give section, all the details are there. Or, if you haven't already, download our Elevate Church AU app. And hey presto, there's a Give section on there as well. It's all pretty straightforward. Now, next week is week 3 of our teaching series, Fresh Start. So I look forward to seeing you with somebody next to you